I don't know if you heard the joint No Tears, but that's the one where I'm like, I'm from the era where how I said it. I'm politicking with this chicken, wondering if I'm a kid. I'm from an era where I used to listen to it on my speaker. From the era where the sneak this and went a little deeper and deceased you bereave after you meet the grim. I'm from the era where I used to put a quarter in the meter and we played the corner store sipping 40 smoking reef. I'm from the era where actions made everyone a believer. If you ain't balling, you look like a cheerleader. Jumpsuit fits, feline sneakers, sky beepers, Nokia era, Nextel chirp, side feature, shit like that, shit like that. So I respect where you're coming
Nice,
from
nice.
with it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
fuck these theatrics, B.
Welcome, everybody, to Emcee 73 TV. It is me, Uncle E. Like I always say, do me a favor, take a little moment to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment. Like I say, whether good or bad, either way, I appreciate you taking the time to do so. Joining me today, man, I'm really excited for my guest. There was a time that there were items like magazines and DVDs. Of course, the radio has always existed, but the DVDs and magazines was a form for us that were in hip hop to know what was going on, right? What was happening. The internet wasn't really going on. We didn't have social media like we do now. So, sometimes you would have to go down, whether it was Canal Street, wherever it was that you got your DVDs and mixtapes from, and see what was happening, right? Whether it was a new artist coming out, new music coming out. Sometimes it was the only way you got to see the face of some of the songs that you might have heard, or, you might hear, you go to school, let's say, and you hear somebody talking about, yo, have you heard about this cat? He's killing it out there. You don't know the face, but you keep hearing the name. Next thing you know, you're looking in a magazine and it's like, oh, shoot, that's from my man. This gentleman comes from a time that was like that. For those of you who may not have lived or experienced that time in hip hop, battling, ciphers. Sometimes you're out in the streets and there's only the people around there that might have caught a glimpse of that little battle, a little freestyle session, and nobody else will see ever again. You just had to hear it, right? Joining me today, I have JUS DAZE. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me on my platform. How's everything going with you, sir?
Everything is gravy, baby. Thank you for the warm welcome and introduction. Very happy to be here. Bow, bow, bow. We come from that era. I am from that era. We are from that era that paved the road. And, we got things to speak on, Uncle E. We got things to speak on.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Because I think I might have had this conversation with one or two other people when it comes to battle, the battle scene in general, right? So we'll get to that in a little bit, because I want you to, I'll say this to start off, and I always hesitate, right? Because I don't want to rub people, because I know the battle scene and the culture is really, really, intense. And I'm not the biggest fan of battle rap, but it's not so much that I'm not a fan of the battle rap scene. There's certain things about it that I'm not too much a fan of, if that makes sense.
For what it's worth, me either.
Okay, so a little bit later we'll get more into that, so you can talk about your background as far as coming up and battling and everything. But to start off, if you do me a favor, I know you represent Queens heavy, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, you were born in Queens or born in Brooklyn?
I was born in East New York. East New York. You know what I'm saying?
That horrible L train.
You know what I'm saying? I'm still by the L train in Queens. Listen, Queens, I just moved over Cyprus. Cyprus, okay? So I'm not that far away.
I hate L train. I think there might be others, but to me, the L train was one of the worst lines.
No, really? Don't do us like that,
at least from East New York. From East New York to get to, what was the last stop? What's the last stop if you're going? Is it Canarsie?
And
No,
Canarsie, you are right. You know, it goes
this,
all through the boroughs.
which is I can't remember the last stop, but you know, where it's outside, it's not underground or anything like that. You know, sometimes I used to get there waiting for the train, and it would like never ever come, bro.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
You
But
must have been
anyway,
waiting off peak.
it was early. It was early.
You
It
must
was
have been
early.
off. Exactly. The
It
Mowers,
was the worst.
the
But yeah,
graveyard shift.
so yeah. So okay, so East New York. How long did you stay in East New York before moving to Queens?
I was born in East New York, and then around 10 years old we moved just right over Cypress, right over onto
Okay,
Myrtle, you know, so from Jamaica to Myrtle, literally. And if you know the hood, you know the hood. That's like literally parallel blocks, you know what I'm saying,
okay.
from each other. So and that's why I represent Queens heavy. I mean, I always chilled in Brooklyn. I made a name for myself in the Bronx, like you was saying before, you know, Bronx Zoo animals, all that good shit. Um,
Okay.
and obviously battling just all around the city and everything. But Queens is my home. Queens, for those that don't know that are watching worldwide, is the entire world inside the borough of New York City. Queens is a bit of everybody's culture, everybody's backgrounds, religions, food, music, temples, synagogues, mosques, church, you name it. It is
True.
the epicenter. And I feel like there's so much culture that comes out of Queens that people used to, you know, back in the day, listen, I'm also from the era where they'd be like, oh, you're from Queens? Queens is pussy. Right, all
Right,
right.
right, 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 right.
So I'm from that era that I remember that, especially being from East New York and chilling with people and growing up with people from Brooklyn. It was always like that. But the borough just breeds so much culture and gives so much life to New York. You got to fly through it in order to come to it. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I feel like Long Island was kind of in that same category as far as people were underestimating Long Island, you know, and it's so close to Queens, you know what I mean?
Strong
A hop,
Island.
skip, and a jump, you're right there in Far Rockaway. But yeah. So wait, so 10, you moved at 10,
Yeah, around 10.
right?
My
So
parents, my grandparents died. It was a family crib situation. They sold it. They split the bread. They all moved into a new house across. We moved on up like the Jeffersons. That was it.
okay, okay. So the reason why I'm asking, because I actually just saw you had on your Instagram page, I saw a video of yourself at like you said at about 8 or 9 years old,
That's
and
correct.
you're like freestyling.
That is correct. That is correct. They were just buying that house. And that,
Okay,
if you look, it was an underdeveloped house. So
right.
I'm in that house. We're starting to move in right around that time. And so by the
Wow.
time I was 10, I was in that house. So that very good memory. Yeah, it was around
Wow.
9 years old. And
Okay.
I mean, I've been rap. Look, hip hop was born. They credited being born 7 years before I was born. So
Mhm.
of course I just feel connected to it. I feel like it was the music that was made personally for me. Like I know we gotta follow it, but I feel like it was made for me. I'm greedy. I
Right,
love
right.
it, you know?
Yes, yeah. So what do you remember more or less at that age? Well, I'm assuming it was probably even before that age. That's what age we're just talking about, that you're doing like a little freestyle and stuff. But what specifically grabbed you when it came to hip hop? Was it the music? Was it graph? Was it dancing?
I'm glad you said a few of the elements because it was the elements. See, I didn't even
Okay.
realize it was all intertwined as a kid. It's just a part of life, right? And it's just
Yeah.
part of in New York. In New York, it's just a part of what you are. You have to freestyle. You have to write. You have to know how to bust one or two moves. Otherwise, you know, you're looked at like a lame in New
Right,
York.
right, right,
So
right,
you
right.
that swag is just inherently part of who you are and your upbringing. And we wear it like a culture and like an ethnicity almost because
Mm-hmm.
it is to us. So yeah, you know, it's man, I don't know, I got lost in the sauce right there for a
No,
second,
no,
but
no. So I'm glad you just answered the way you did, actually, because not for nothing. Sometimes I tend to ask that question with
mhm.
certain guests, right? Just because I'm curious. You know, some people might say I was DJing first and then I became a producer. You know, I was dancing first, and you know, whatever. But sometimes it is hard to some pinpoint
Pinpointed
what exactly grabbed you when it was just all happening. And
facts.
and I always say that because I remember as a young kid around the same age that, you know, we're talking about yourself, just coming outside and everything was, if you were going on the subway, you're bound to see pieces on the subway or on your way
Hmm.
to the subway, or if you're walking down the block, you're hearing kids on the corner with the music playing and then breaking or whatever have you in the corners, and it was a normal thing.
Right.
So I get what you're saying, and it's
Exactly.
true.
So it's just inherent. It's just what you
Hmm.
grow up around. It's just what you
Hmm.
feel like you're a part of. And if it's in you, it's in you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's not something that you put on. It's just the way shit is. And to me, I mean, the music was always the most gravitating. That was the part that pulled me in the
Hmm.
most. I thought rhyming was just like, and I thought I could do it, right? I thought I could do it. That's
Yeah.
what I think it was. I think everybody loves hip hop because now we're seeing social media. Everybody wants to be a little bit of rappity rap, right? And everybody can rap. Even like, Auntie at the barbecue is spitting bars. You
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
just the
yeah,
way it is. You get a little dark liquor in her, she's going,
yeah.
right?
Right,
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that because it doesn't take away from the elements and the purity of hip hop. What it does is it grows and expands us into ways that we're remixing ourselves now, and everybody wants to grab onto it, right?
Mhm.
Everybody wants to grab onto it. And to me, that's growth. That's being broader than just music. And that's what's going to allow people to inherit maybe some of the lifestyle for those that like it gravitates towards.
Right, right, right. All right. So now, just a little side note. If there's anything that you don't want to talk about, don't want me to mention or something like that, let me know. We don't have to, you know what I mean?
Got you.
And the reason why I'm asking that, because I do, if you can and if you want, because I saw, in some of the stuff that you talk about, it, so the I don't want to say disability. I don't like
No,
using
yeah, yeah, yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
the
Just
word
spit it out. Just
disability,
spit it out. No, you could
but
go. Let's.
if it's
First of
okay
all,
to talk, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
respect. No,
Hmm.
respect for approaching it delicately. Right? It is
Hmm.
it does sometimes require delicate procedures. I feel you,
I
but
know you're transparent, bro. You know what I mean? But again, I just like to, I like to just let people know, like, if I
for sure.
ask
Listen,
something that's not something that's comfortable, you can always just let me know. And you know what I
m-
mean?
m- much respect. Don't even stress that. I appreciate you asking like that. We can go into it as much as you want. It's a big
Okay.
part of who I am. It is who I am. But the
Right.
great thing about it is for you to ask that, I'm not defined by it. So that's why I'm happy to speak about it on levels that it can provide, even like, you know,
That,
to somebody else, they can grab from that. You feel me?
that's the reason why I would, if you wanted to, that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it, because at a very early age, you had to deal with things that sometimes others might not have to deal with
That's a
necessarily.
big fact.
And, what you ended up, how you dealt with it. So, okay, so, all right, cool. We'll take it from there then. So, before we get more into, hip hop aspect and music with you and everything, if you could explain to me and everybody watching, growing up as a kid, you were dealt with the fact of dealing with a disability with your legs. Was that from early on as a kid, or did that develop after?
Yeah, no, I was born with a condition, and it's the name of the condition is called genovariment, right? And basically,
Oh,
it's
Gina Barron.
extreme
Okay.
bow-leggedness. Now, in the
Yeah, yeah,
hood,
yeah.
everybody's bow-legged to some degree,
Hmm.
right? It's
Right.
even a joke, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but but when you
Yeah.
get old, like when you have somebody like me, so just to differentiate, that
Mhm.
boat might be like that for you. It is like a parenthesis for me, right? So
Okay.
my legs
Mhm.
have no cartilage in them. They have no shock absorbing. I've had arthritis since a kid. I couldn't run. My mobility was compromised.
Okay.
I had to walk with crutches. I was, unfortunately deprived of, say, maybe corrective shoes that could have helped me at that point. My upbringing was
Mm.
tough. There was abuse involved. There was belittling, and this is at home. This is at
Oh,
home.
okay.
Not to mention having to see the world as a child and people are giving you adult eyes when they look at you, meaning they're
Mhm.
judging you. So at an early age, you learn how to keep your defenses up, but you also learn not to be defined by other people's opinions because a lot of people would have wrote me out. A
Mhm.
lot of people wouldn't have thought that I could accomplish the things that I did if
Right.
I listened to them. And so I walk twice as hard to keep up with you, right? Just to
Right.
keep up with you. and somehow people still get mad because I win in that race.
Right, 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 right. How did you, again, as a young kid though, how did you deal with that? How did you deal with the looks,
Mhm,
whether they were uh, saying certain things that might have been hurtful, or
mhm.
maybe treating you a certain way, and then also, how did you deal with the fact, for example, going outside, you're at school, maybe, kids are doing certain things or certain activities that maybe, I don't know if maybe you weren't able to do necessarily.
Correct, correct.
So how did you deal with that at a young
Um,
age?
I to tell you, that's a great question because I don't really know how I dealt with it, but I dealt with it, right? Like I
Mhm,
think
mhm,
I think like I was just going through it and I was kind of finding myself and finding what worked, although I had a lot of in early on in life, I think kids have a hard time defining who they are and what their worth is. And
mhm,
I never thought I was going to hook up with a girl. I thought I wouldn't
mhm.
be a part of a lot of things, and I wrote myself out. And a lot of those things was being more realistic than optimistic in those situations.
Yeah.
But I've always learned that I could do it. Like I could do it. I just gotta work. I just gotta work. I can't be lazy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm,
Like I
mhm,
could go out in the jungle and hunt food. I can't maybe do it like you, but I could do it the ways that I can. And so once I realized that, I tapped into like a super strength and a superpower. And at one point, I dealt with as I was growing up in my teens, heavily experimenting with drugs and doing
mhm.
all the shit that just happens living in New York and being on the street and making money and just not have, I could give you the little violin story. I could give it to you, but we all have it. So that's not what's interesting about me.
Right,
What's
right, right.
interesting about me is that on top of that, I had to overcome being 500 pounds, being unhealthy physically, mentally, emotionally. And when I was finally just sick of it all, I something in me just was like,
It just clicked.
Days you could, yeah, Days you could
Mhm.
do it. And I lost 250 pounds. I threw my crutches. I because and I became what I envisioned in my head. When I was
Mhm.
young, I used to want to be a cartoonist. So I used to draw myself with muscles, and I used to
Oh,
love
nice,
like Tough
nice,
Eye
nice.
and like all that. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and wrestling, and so I was very much saw myself in that light. And so
Mm.
I eventually evolved into that. That
Okay.
was, something that I worked towards. So to tell you how I dealt with it, I think I turned pressure into productivity, and I
Mhm.
think I turned pain into progress.
Got you. Okay, okay. Nice, nice, nice way of putting that. Now, when you're dealing with the things that you were dealing with, as far as what you just explained, how you were feeling, things that you were doing, and you just mentioned the weight that you had on, which, if obviously, the heavier we are, the more strain it puts on our legs and everything, right? So I'm sure that also played into the fact of making things not better.
Mm.
But did you have somebody that was helping you, whether it was at home? Did you ever have to seek, medical assistance, like as far as to tell you, like, hey, listen, if you lose some weight, that might help you, or if you do certain things, or was this all yourself?
Well, so I mean, so yeah, like all of that, but like there's a timeline to it, right? So like when I was a
Hmm.
kid, for instance, like my mom is probably the sweetest woman you'll ever know. She
Hmm.
didn't have a great relationship with my father. Didn't work out. His priorities weren't straight.
Hmm.
He was really like my father has made something of himself. He is like an accomplished dude, but just he wasn't in the right headspace to have kids, and he sort of did things in a violating way towards my family and me and my mom's. And so there was like always that kind of dealing with that too. And there was
Hmm.
also physical abuse that came with it. I also have a
Hmm.
younger brother. My younger brother's mentally ill.
Mm.
um
Okay.
and so there's a lot, right? There's a
Yeah,
lot to
yeah, yeah.
unpack there. It's like
Mhm,
right, just
mhm.
throw it down on the table.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But my mom helped me just get through really tough times. My mom really taught me to believe in myself, but also to be kind to the world because
Mm,
she was kind. And
mhm.
because of that, I'm not an asshole. I'm not a dick. I know how to talk to a kid like a kid. I know how to grill an adult like an adult, and that might just be because I'm from New York or whatever the case may be.
Right, right.
But but at the end of the day, I had that. And then in my teens, I think that's where, you know, I went to a hospital for special surgery to go get an evaluation. And then my mom and my dad finally got divorced officially at that point. And then that was like, that caused a lot. That was like what brought on just
Okay.
like a avalanche of kind of riptide effect, right? And
Mhm.
just so I think we were all finding ourselves, and that's when I got lost in drugs and selling drugs and
Mhm.
finally hooking up with a chick and like thinking, you know what I'm saying? Like in my
Yeah.
teens, all that shit that like I was like in my head as a kid about it was just will never happen, right? It started
Right,
happening.
right,
And then
right.
I was like, yo, you know what? My legs ain't even that important. Just other than the pain I feel, which is
Mhm.
constant pain and it's like lower back pain
Yeah,
and
yeah.
fucking my hips and just everything that comes along with it. And of
Mhm.
course I got made fun of for it, but when you're built for it, it just makes you stronger. Like
Mhm.
you catch those bullets in your teeth and you spit them out, and you don't let that define you either. So it's like whatever anybody could have said to me or thought they could have made me feel, I already made myself feel worse. Trust me on that.
Mhm.
Trust
Gotcha.
me on that. You know?
Gotcha. Gotcha. I was saying we're gonna put a pause on that because we'll get to a little further down the line. There's a couple of questions I'm gonna ask you that's gonna tie back into everything that you dealt with growing up as a kid that kind of made and molded you into who you are today.
All right.
So let's get back to the hip hop part now. 10 years old, you're already dabbling with rhyming and stuff like that. From that point, how long did it take until you kind of got to a space where you were like, I really, really want to kind of pursue something, right? Like, I don't know if you already had it in your mind, but you wanted to get better at rhyming.
Yeah.
How long did that take from the 10-year-old kid to
I mean, for 3 years, I had to beg my parents for a 4 track, right? I had to
a four
beg.
track?
I had to
Yeah, yeah.
beg them for a 4 track. So much so that by the time they were finally, I convinced them and my grades and all that shit was right.
Uh,
There was an 8 track. And so I got the 8 track joint,
okay.
right?
Nice,
And
nice.
so it was worth it. You see, the hustle
Yeah,
was worth
yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'll tell you that, like, by the time I was in high school, I knew I really wanted to cut records. I knew I really wanted to write. I didn't know what it meant, where it would take me, what it entailed. I just knew I
Mhm,
wanted to do it and I wanted to get really good at it. And I actually, my structure wasn't the best, right? I was a great wordsmith, but my structure wasn't the best. And so I worked with this kid Dave Bellevue in high school.
mhm,
Shouts to Dave, man.
yeah.
He probably don't even know that I think about this deep in this, because this is not a dude I'm in touch with at all anymore. But I
Oh,
give
okay, okay.
flowers to those that paved some of the things that I took from them. And
Mhm.
so he spent time with me on the phone. He was like, Days, you be saying the dopest shit, but you just don't say it dope. And like,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
but I needed that level of real if I wanted to get good.
Mhm,
And I needed that level. And so like he just served it to me like that, like, ouch, but good. Fucking make now let's go in the gym. Let's box now. Show me what the fuck I'm doing. And
okay.
so he spent time to help me structure my rhyme better than it was. And then after I learned how to get the structure of it down, I just really just was like, yo, I want to battle everybody. I'm better than everybody in my head. I think, I'm smart. Like I'm thinking I'm smarter and I'm sharper and I could come up with a snap really quick on the spot. I could
Right,
freestyle better.
right.
Like freestyling was my shit.
Mhm.
And then by the time I went to college, I was on the block more than I was in the classroom. But they had a Sony talent show that led to a meeting with an A&R, Salim Bob, and then I had a manager, and then I was signed to A Train under the Sony label. And then it was
Mhm.
also like a Sony Red kind of thing at that time, which everybody knows, like Sony Red, it's got like the stigma attached to it
Yeah, yeah.
for obvious reasons. But
Mhm,
I was kind of just still figuring it out. I was still 500 pounds. I was incredibly unhealthy. I was,
mhm,
doing all types of drugs. Um, but I was there. I was in the moment. I was outside. I was
mhm,
there. I was making, like you said, there was legendary shit that I was doing at like battles with like celebrities and shit and writing. A lot of
mhm.
people know that they know at this point, like I've ghostwritten for pretty high profile things. And so like, I've always wanted to pursue just using my voice and using my writing. I just didn't know how. So I think it's always just been there since a kid somehow. It's just the desire to do better. And that's like once I got into the gym, I wanted to lift all the weights. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
that's how that's it's like being obsessed with the good shit.
Mm. Now, how did you end up, because you said you love to freestyle. You said your mind was thinking about battling everybody. But what were you seeing or hearing that kind of drove you to that lane? Like, what I mean is, as opposed to, there might be somebody out there that wanted to be an MC, but they
Hmm.
were just thinking about, I just want to write music and make records, right? Not
Hmm.
necessarily be good at freestyling or be a good battle MC. So how did you end
Hmm.
up kind of taking that lane?
Well, see where somebody takes like playing baseball and basketball and wiffle ball for
Mhm.
granted. I couldn't run my legs, so I could run my mouth, motherfucker. so 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 to
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
that's a sport.
Mhm,
It's a
mhm.
sport. It ain't personal. We can smoke a blunt while we battling. We can smoke a. There was one legendary moment outside of I think it was Dingbats in Jersey. I don't know if you're familiar with
Okay.
that spot, Dingbats, and
I never been there, but I heard the name.
Me and PH, rest in peace, PH, we battled on the spot and we battled for a couple of bags of weed. Now, I didn't even smoke at the time. I had quit smoking. I was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
on that kind of, I was on my fitness shit and like $40. And me and PH I mean, like we bodied these dudes and they couldn't pay up. And it was just all this really bad type of situation. Team Homie got involved a little something, son, got a little messy. You know, we'll leave it at that. But you
Yeah, yeah,
want to
yeah, yeah.
talk about moments that just for some reason
Right,
just
right,
take you,
right,
you know
right,
what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
was, man, rest in peace, PH, man, for real.
I if you may, I've had a couple of guests on that somehow, some way, sometimes PH name comes up, right? It's something
Yep.
that they knew him, dealt with,
Mm.
moments like that. Can you take a second and just kind of tell me, how was PH? How did you see PH in your eyes? You know what I mean? What's something that you could maybe tell us about PH?
PH was a mentor. He was a friend. He was the big homie. He was a pain in the ass sometimes.
Right, right, right.
um, you know, PH for me was there at a moment where I didn't realize I even needed this like type of validation, but looking back at it, he was just like the big homie that was like the legend that didn't make you feel like you was hanging with a legend, but at the same time was like inherently showing you like kind of that G code shit, you know, just
Mhm,
trying to show you the ropes without like necessarily telling you. And so like
mhm.
he would just open the doors and opportunities for you. He would co-sign you every chance he got to. Um, and he would actually be the type of person that if you were in his trust circle, like he would depend on you for certain things. He would depend on you to be real with him, just the same way
Gotcha.
he would be real with you. And I felt privileged to have known him on the level that I do, have gotten close to him the way I did.
Mm,
Just been around him countless times and just really missing that energy. And I remember the day that I heard it. Poison Pen called me. I was at
okay.
this new job that I had started, and I
Mhm.
just remember it just felt like a gut punch,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
and
Mhm,
I was like, no, that's not real. Like, no. And that happened. That was also for J Arch too. When J Arch passed, it was another thing. Like that might be a name that you've heard. Like,
mhm, mhm.
again, hip hop is
Yeah.
a small
Mhm.
world when
Yeah.
you like with certain people and certain groups. So it was like, but PH for me will always be the big homie. He was the glue that kept a lot of us together. And he is still heavily respected. And he got the block named after him. So come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on. What are
yeah.
we doing?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Shout out to PA, rest in peace, man. Like I said, there's a lot that of people that we've lost throughout the years. For some reason, I don't know what it is about PH that, like I said, whenever I have a guest on and they mention him, I always feel the need to have to little, you know what I mean? A little segment, little something about PH just in his name.
Mhm.
It might have to do. It could be that for me, I don't hear his name enough. Maybe in my like in my circle. Not saying that it's not
Yeah.
mentioned, but I mean on a bigger scale,
But
which I know whatever. But
you
I
got to
think
think
maybe.
about it like this. The fact that
Mhm.
his name is even mentioned so often and so frequent when you talk to people, even
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah, yeah.
far later, shows what an influence he was. Every time I see an
Exactly.
orange moon anywhere, I think of PH. I
Yeah,
always do. I
yeah.
think of PH. Listen, PH was the type of dude who if you couldn't spar with him, like PH was like the type of dude he gotta jump you in to be his friend.
Right, right, right,
Whether it
right.
be verbally, physically, we used to like it was always you're always it's always a competition with PH, always a competition. But then there was other moments where like there was really vulnerable PH and like I said, it's just not enough that you could do a whole 3 series segment
Right,
on
right.
PH and just begin to scrape the surface. Like his book. I have his book in here,
Oh, really?
with me all the time, man. Like I don't know. PH was he was a special homie. I miss him, and God bless him and his family and what he did and his contributions towards
Mhm.
underground hip hop and just hip hop in general.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. Once again, rest in peace to PH. So you mentioned that you won the competition and then ended up with Sony and all of that stuff.
Right,
Then you have management. Like you kind of I mean, I know it took some years to get to that, but
right.
some people shop demos and demos and demos, just trying to get something and never get anything. Uh, what happens with you after that situation?
Great question. So basically, what happened with me, and great observation too, because I had like tapes that I had been making. Remember, I had an 8 track and I had
Yeah,
like, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
never had no like I was broke, so I didn't really had no studio grade shit like
Uh-huh.
that. The closest we got to real studios was my man in his garage had like a dope setup and like he had just
Right, right.
all like the tape, like the mixing board and everything and like the makeshift booth. So like we felt like we was really in the studio. And then eventually we upgraded to a real studio out in the Bronx. Um, and it was dope. It was like a legit studio. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to E. I wonder what he's doing nowadays. But anyway,
Okay, okay.
so what happened was we recorded a bunch of songs. I wrote for a bunch of people. That was really more so what my deal was. It was more of like a writing for other people and the artists they were going to really push, and being in
Mhm.
their videos and kind of making appearances and kind of being seen amongst the push. It's almost like a development deal, right? And they basically I shot a couple videos that were never released, recorded a couple joints that was never mine to release, and nothing became of it. The management that I had was just it's hard to admit it, but it was like a fugazi kind of management. You know what I'm saying? It really
Mhm,
was on some like the guy was more interested in what he could do for himself and what he was trying to push. He had a whole separate agenda. He had a clothing line that he was really trying to launch and like so him just getting in with Sony was like I was kind of like a puppet in that equation, so to speak.
mhm.
You know what
Right,
I'm
right,
saying?
right. Gotcha,
So there's a
Okay.
little bit of humility that comes with that and a learning lesson and but at the same breath, these are the breaks. You have to
That's right.
learn. And so I didn't take it personal. For me, it just let me certified know that I just wanted to be independent. I didn't care if I ever blew up. I didn't care if I ever just rapped in front of 20 people, 50 people, 100 people. It didn't make a difference to me. I just wanted to be in control of my own destiny.
Okay. So what once that's how did you end up ending that situation?
It kind of ended itself because the manager he kind of wasn't able to be found for a hot minute. Basically, he jumped out of the country, went to South America for a little while. A Train Productions, which is who I was truly
Mhm.
signed to, they fell apart. They dissolved, and that was that. It was just a learning experience. I can't say that it was all trash, but 98% of it probably was
Right,
trash
right,
as
right.
far as
But
an experience goes. But you
right,
learn
right.
from it. I was young,
Exactly.
no big deal. No big deal. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that was my learning experience because I wasn't ready for it really. I
Uh-huh.
realized it showed me things I didn't. It was like on the job training, I guess you can call it.
Mhm.
Like that's what it was for me, and I learned valuable lessons. I did. I learned like the different components of music, and like I knew about royalties, and I knew about licensing and all this other shit that people didn't even think was like anything. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Mhm.
actually how I made my bread and got my my links with like commercials and drug administrative and all that kind of shit.
Nice, nice. Okay, okay.
Television
So
spots, like that kind of writing, the writing that really puts money in your pocket. Like I love making my own music and that's what I strive to do, but the music that I make for others is really what's put money in my pocket.
nice, nice, nice. It's funny. We interviewed Dr. Period once, right? And he said something similar to where he's making beats and artists and this and that, and I forgot exactly, but man, I don't remember if it was a movie or a commercial. Somebody used like a small little piece of one of his
Yep.
productions, and he said he was like, "Wait, I get how much for 30 seconds of?" He's like, "Here I'm making like 4-minute songs or whatever, and I get how much for 30 seconds?" And he said that like blew his mind, and it was on from there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for real. Listen, I've done commercials, pharmaceutical companies. The name of the company was Ironwood Pharmaceutical, and they basically put out shit like Linzess.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, I work with their compliance team and put together some stuff that they use. We
Nice,
could
nice,
keep it
nice.
as that. We could
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
it as
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah. So you end up working with the
And
pharmacy.
celebrities. I've done celebrities' birthday parties. I've like wrote custom songs for like so when celebs have birthday parties and these people that own these companies, bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, they go nuts. They rent hotels, they
Yeah,
rent
yeah, yeah.
live performances, they get people like Snoop Dogg to do shout outs and people like
Mm-hmm.
me to record songs for the soundtracks to the DVDs to these movies and show up as a pop-up appearance and that kind of stuff. And also
Wow.
like the vice president of Polo, like they'll have a birthday party in upstate and they'll have like 50 to 100 of their close friends out. They'll pay for me to go out there, write a song, and they actually made like napkins and banners off of the stuff that I wrote for the event. I wrote a specific song, and you
Yeah,
get
that's
it's like there's
crazy.
there's so much cool shit that you do. um and then I did a business book. So like I made a rap album based off of a business book that was on Skybox MSNBC in Australia. And people fly across the country to meet you. You're toasting up in fancy restaurants, and like it's
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
because it's corporate work, right? It is. And you
Mm-hmm.
got to have a certain work ethic and acumen to do that, but you also get to be yourself in these rooms and make bread doing it. I mean,
Right,
come
right,
on.
right, right, right.
Even voiceover work. There's so much money in voiceover work.
Yeah, yeah. How did you stumble across those little things that most might not even think about as far as lanes that they could get into? Like, was that all? Did you happen to stumble upon that
I
yourself? Did you
I
have
think
somebody working with you?
I think what happened is, remember how I told you, like I didn't remember when I told you as a kid, like I didn't know that what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do it, and I knew
Mm-hmm.
I could do it.
Right.
Well, that's kind of how like I landed in these situations too. When
Okay.
you go on a job interview and they're like,
Yeah.
"Can you do this?" and I'm like, "Do it.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
doing it." Right? Right?
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so some of it is just being put under pressure. And
Okay.
that pressure, you don't know what you're capable of until you're in the moment. And if it's sink or swim, I'm gonna swim every time, even though in real life I can't swim.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you.
So
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 that's cool.
honestly, those situations come to me. I'm the guy who sits in the back of the club, and whoever's supposed to come to me is gonna come to me, right? I don't go chasing it. And that's why I don't come off spammy, and that's why I don't come off like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the guy that's knocking on your door like a producer will be like, "Here, bro, you have a fire flow. Let me send you 12 beats." And then like, they'll be like, "Listen, if you want to do it for $40,
Yeah.
bro, I don't even want to listen to your shit the minute you just hit my inbox. Like I'm over it from that moment. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's so cool, man. That's really that's interesting, man, because it's like even though there's a lot out there that dabble in those different aspects of hip hop, like you were just saying, it's still cool to hear, right? That for artists that are coming in, let's say, that only think that making music, putting out an album, getting signed to a label is the only way that they can go as far as when it comes to writing, to know that there's so many other lanes available. So you might not, necessarily, maybe you're not doing the best at making an album and putting it out and being released, but there's so many other things that you still could do with your talent of writing. So
Well,
it's cool.
it is, and I guess, listen, it's important to say and preface it with not everything is for everybody.
Of course.
They also say battle rappers make bad music. They also
Oh,
say
well, I
that.
was gonna, yeah. We,
I didn't mean to
that's
steal
that.
your thunder. I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No. It's just because, we'll talk. Finish what you were gonna say, and then
I
we'll just
forgot
jump.
now. I forgot. The reaction threw me.
Sorry, man. It's just, okay. You know what? So let's go right into that for
Yeah.
a second.
All right, let's go.
So you have a heavy background when it comes to battling and freestyling and everything. So before we get into more of that of yourself, though, what is it? Because of course, not all battle rappers can't make a song. We know that that's not the case, right? But I think what has happened is that there's some artists out there that come from the battle scene that people really love. And it's like I think we kind of tend to want to champion them to be successful in that other side, right? As far as making an album, putting it out, and the album's dope. I don't know. I'm just kind of,
Well,
but then when you hear the album, it's not that good. And
right.
you wonder to yourself, he's so dope with the pen.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening that he can't make a song or an album?
Well,
so what's your take on it?
I think that, again, just because you can battle doesn't mean that you got rhythm. It doesn't mean that you have like feel music on that level. Battling is more nowadays of like a poetic performance. It's more of like in true essence, is not like it was back in the day. To hear battling on beats, you hear it on a commercial level, but not so much in the underground. It's all stage and acapella, and a lot of people include a lot of theatrics in it, which, don't get me wrong, there's a certain component of it that I enjoy, the WWE aspect of it. I enjoy watching a show, but it also takes away from the actual like purity of the art form, if that makes sense. So that being said, battle rap has people that can do that and are excellent at that. But when it comes to actually getting on a song, they can't rap. They're not a rapper. They're not an MC. They're just good at that. There's like some people. It's like, I guess it's like, I guess the analogy I could give you is like this: somebody who does CrossFit is not going to be a power lifter, even though they're in the same gym.
Right.
So that's like, or somebody that's like, just because they can fight southpaw doesn't mean they can fight with the right hand either. So it's just a matter of taking that into account. But also, I think that certain people start battle rapping nowadays without ever have done rapping before. So it also depends on like how you stepped into it, I guess. Everybody's a fan of hip hop, but they can be just a fan of niche battle rap. And I think that's dope. I think that it really gives people like the nerds a chance to exercise. Because let's be real, battle rap is nerdy as fuck. You have to, for some of the references that you have to get, you have to be nerdy and on the spot. And everybody, so I don't give a fuck. Never judge a book by its cover. Motherfuckers want to hide their chain at a battle rap event, but everybody in there is fucking listening to fucking Third Rock from the Sun fucking analogies and fucking all this other stupid shit that comes up in battle rap references. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I mean, I love that. I love that you could put that all under one roof too. But that doesn't mean the kid in Oregon that dyes his hair purple that listens to it is going to be able to do what the kid from Bed-Stuy and Nostrand Ave can do. You know what I'm saying? Like it's also, it's just, it really is not for everybody to get in. So, and also battle rappers just don't see music as like the motivation. For me, battle
Okay.
rapping, I knew was going to help push my music. So for me, it was like I wanted to battle rap just to get a little bit more exposure so people would listen to my music. Just like the thing with me is people first, they met me, they saw I had a voice, I was different because of my whole physicality, the way I spoke, everything. And then after they felt that, they were like, oh, and he could rap too. So it's like,
Mm,
you gotta make your way in the door. You gotta be worth listening to, and then after that, you gotta be fucking dope. You know, in that
gotcha.
order. In that
Yeah,
order.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, see, so earlier when I was saying about I'm not necessarily the biggest fan as far as the battle scene. And again, I said that there's certain elements about it that I'm not too much of a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just said it too. Within more recent years, well, I'm saying recent, but it's probably been already like 10 or so years now. Uh, there's a certain theatrics, I guess you could, like you just said about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of the part that I can't, it's hard for me to get past that and appreciate the battle. If that, you know what I mean?
Fully respect that.
Because you, I have that same issue when it comes to breaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me personally, a lot of it has to do with just the times that I grew up, what
Mm-hmm.
I was watching and who I was watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, for example, in breaking, um, I, I take somebody like a Ken Swift, Mr. Wiggles. I'm just mentioning guys, ones that I came up like watching that I really, really enjoyed watching. Ken Swift, Mr. Wiggles, and others. To me, guys like that, they had their own identity of how they carried themselves, right? Like if you saw them in the street, walking and talking or somewhere, that
You knew.
same energy was shown when they were breaking. So like
Mm.
when they would do certain things when they're battling someone or just breaking, and of course it's a little more exaggerated, right? Because they're dancing and they're doing this. But
They're
when you
putting on a
saw
show.
them out and about, it's like I could see that. Like, oh, that face he made when he was battling, like you know what I mean? So
Right. It's a representation of who they are.
for me, I that's like very embedded in me.
Yeah.
So when I watch breaking in battles now, and I see cats go up to the other side and they do certain gestures and this and that, and I'm like, yo, everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, it's like a thing. Like you have to go up to the person in front of you and do a certain motion, face, this and that. And to me, in battle rap, I see a lot of that.
But isn't that just this day and age in society? Isn't that TikTok dances? Isn't that just everybody doing the same shit because nobody can come up with their own shit? Isn't that just what it is? I don't think it's fair. Like, here's the thing. I hear what you're saying about hip hop, right? It is definitely a lot of theatrics in battle rap that I don't care for or appreciate myself. But
Yeah.
if you look at it like like if you look at it like WWE and you look at it like they're putting on a performance
Yeah.
rather than that, and you get out of that headspace, and then you might be able to appreciate the bars. But some of them are so cringy, to your point, that you
Yeah.
can't get past it. You're like, fuck this dude.
That's kind of my problem. And I've tried, don't get me wrong. I've watched, because I have friends that are like super heavy into it and they would tell me about, check out this person. And they are, look, like I said, it's not that I don't like it or I don't, you know, like certain individuals that come from that, because there's a lot of dudes out there that I know that are like, yo, they're nice.
Hmm.
But to watch like the actual battle scene that's going on now, and to see like this person's up in this person's face all the time and this happens and it's like this, it's like the same reactions, the same antics are being
Antics.
done, right? And it's
Good
just
word.
like everybody's doing the same thing, like everybody, like there's not who. So I think that's what my problem. And back to the breaking point, when I see certain individuals come out and they're doing certain things that it's like, yeah, like you don't. This is I don't believe that you necessarily were coming from that type of environment that you act like that, look like that, do these certain things. Like to me, you see what's done all the time and feel like this has to be part to draw the crowd. I could be 100% wrong. It's just my point of view of how I see it from the outside.
You're not though. You're not though, and it's a good observation because here's the thing: you could tell when somebody's putting on. You can tell when it's not them. You can also tell, but that's why I'm telling you, if you could
Get past.
overlook it for some of them. For some
Yeah,
of them, it's
yeah.
worth it for some of them.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's like the WWE. You know all the wrestling. You know the athleticism is real. You know what goes into it, but the whole match is fake, right? It's just like it's a script and it's a work, right? So if you could look at hip hop in the same way, the two opponents are battling, and certain things that one does, the crowd likes to see. Now you may not care for it, but the bars they're saying are so elite that it's worth pushing like past it. You know, it's worth it. There are certain people, and the person I'm thinking of in particular is Rum Nitty. Rum Nitty he's just absolutely, his penmanship is matched to none other. He's a step above. But then there's also people like Loaded Lux, right? Loaded Lux, who everybody's familiar with, super elite with the pen, and also doesn't have to put on the theatrics. But you can appreciate both because they're both different wrestlers. You know, there's the Macho Man, and then there's fucking Randy Savage. You know what I'm saying? There's Hogan, and then there's the Undertaker, and I appreciate them all for what they do, and I like that that's their personality. But to your point, they're all using the same fucking finishing move, and it gets boring over and over and over when you could see it from. It looks like they're fucking landing a plane, like, you know what I'm saying? They're waving the gun like they're you know what I'm saying? They're waving, they're shooting like that, you know. And then you're like, nah, like that's
again,
not, like homie, like. So I respect that aspect of it too, because we are from that era. Going back to how we came into the show, we are from that era. You know, I have on my verse. I don't know if you heard the joint No Tears, but that's the one where I'm from the era where how I said it. I'm politicking with this chicken, wondering if I'm from an era where I used to listen to it on my speaker. From the era where the sneak diss and went a little deeper and deceased you bereave after you meet the grim. I'm from the era where I used to put a quarter in the meter and we played the corner store sipping 40 smoking reef. I'm from the era where your actions made everyone a believer. If you ain't balling, you look like a cheerleader. Jumpsuit fits, fila sneakers, sky beepers, Nokia era, Nextel chirp, side feature, you know, shit like that, you know, shit like that. So I respect where you're coming from with it, because fuck these theatrics, B. Like,
but you know, again, I understand. You know, like I said, I'm not like, you know, oblivious. It's not that I'm stuck in a certain era or nothing like that. But I will say there's certain things about it that I am kind of stuck in my ways. But it's not just with hip hop. It's the same thing with sports. You know what I mean? I love basketball and, you know, and baseball. But there's certain things that I'm just kind of like, man, I have to kind of like pull these things out of the way and get to like,
you
know.
And if it ain't organic, it ain't worth it sometimes. You ain't got to put that much into it to appreciate it sometimes either. But I'm telling you, look past it once in a blue.
I'm gonna go again.
Tap
I'm gonna tap back in again. I've tried it a couple of times, and like I said, I have some that I love.
I'll send you some offline recommendations.
Yeah. I have a few, you know, that I've come to like throughout the years.
I'll send you some of the homies.
Yeah. Please do. So let's stay on this though. Let's talk a little bit about the EOW, since you mentioned Poison Pen earlier on.
Right.
You've been able to participate in a lot of different aspects of battle. You know, you have the EOW. What else was out there? The what is it
Brooklyn
called?
Hip Hop Fest.
The Brooklyn Hip Hop Grand Time now.
Grind time now.
Yeah.
King of the Dot. Smack.
Right, Smack DVD. I mean, you know, what else? URL.
Beast Mode. iBattle.
It's a lot out there.
Vlad TV. Double XL. Hot 97. Boost Mobile Battles.
Yeah.
No, the resume is stacked. Listen, resume is stacked. Resume is stacked.
Listen, and it's impressive. But do me a favor, let's talk about the EOW. What's the significance?
What you want to talk about?
If you could just tell people that might not know necessarily about the EOW, because I know that was very early on. It might be, sure, there's probably some stuff that you could find out there, but talk a little bit about it. What's the significance, the importance behind the EOW, and you know, what was your experience like?
Sure, absolutely. So EOW, stands for end of the week. It
Mhm.
was the longest open weekly open mic in New York City. It had to bounce around a couple times. It was put together by Prolific, um, Big Zoo, and rest in peace, Vice Versa.
Vice versa. Yes.
And, it was a spot that a lot of people from a lot of different places came to show their craft, to practice new joints, to just basically, it was a dope open mic, period, right? It was true hip hop of the essence, and everybody and anybody was welcome there. Celebrities came, from people from the neighborhood came, people carved and etched their name in there. It was like kind of like one
Mhm.
of those places, it's like where you had to kind of hang your hat there in order to have some sort of credibility in at least the competitive aspect of hip hop, because you had some of the top people from the world. It became like one of those things that was local, but then it became a worldwide movement,
Mhm.
and you had to respect the movement because it was the elite pens that were going there, and the performers that, people were just making a name for themselves, and really just where you would cut your teeth, but you would be boxing amongst the best.
Mhm.
And it meant something to have like that kind of a title, especially underground hip hop, because everybody looks at EOW as that spot. It's no longer the way it once was. Vice versa did pass on at a very
Yeah.
early age, and
Mhm.
so it's kind of not what it once was. There are certain events that still pop up. They still do the open mic. They do the MC challenge, which is one of the accolades that I've received over there a few times, and winning. And again, those
Mhm.
things are important because it just shows that you're cut from that cloth, and you're valid. It's kind of like you're stamped. Doing
Mhm.
certain things like that, hitting certain stages, or performing in certain venues, certain neighborhoods, certain cities, like all
Right.
that shit, and kind of being valid everywhere you go, and being the same person everywhere you go. People start to respect you for that, and you start to lay down footprints everywhere you go. You know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Do you remember, or could you mention some of the people that you might have battled?
I mean, I battled in King of the Dot. I battled HFK. I battled Cortez. I battled, like I was telling you earlier. There was so many off-camera stuff. Like I'm talking
Yeah. Yeah.
about
Yeah.
on camera. Like I could tell you people I battled like off camera too.
Right.
It's just, I'll put it to you like this: I battled everybody from top tier
Mhm.
to amateur, right? And in between. And so many people that sometimes you don't even remember. Like that's like I used to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
cipher battle, not just written pen. Like yo, you just jump on. You saw four people on the block, da 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 da. Like like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that kind of a thing. But um, Dirt was another big battle. Like he was a dude from Syracuse.
Mhm.
Again, we as homies, we always used to battle each other in the studio. PH was definitely one of those people. I can't tell you how many times me and him battled each other on the phone, in front of people, at the radio station. Like he's one of those people that just doesn't give up. He lived and breathed battle rap, I think, more than a lot of people do. Definitely more than I do. I have an appreciation for battle rap, right? For me, it was always just a medium for me to get my music
To
out. I
get your
really
music.
wanted people,
Mhm.
yeah, I just wanted people to hear my music. Like, I didn't love it like that. Like, it was one of those things I told you. I felt like I had to do it. Like, I felt like
To
I
to
had
to
to do it. You had to, it's just, you had to know how to freestyle. You had to know how to battle. And if you didn't, you're a pussy.
Right. 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 Yeah. 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 Did you ever find yourself? Uh, I mean, I know you had to, like, around, let's say, Washington Square Park
Definitely.
back in the day. Yeah.
All over. Listen, there would be nights where we would end up from the Lower East Side all the way to Harlem in Jersey. Like, there were days where we would just go on nonstop, just going fucking city to city. And Penn was a big part of that. Immortal
Mhm.
Technique was a big part of that.
Mhm.
J Arch was a big part of that. Uh, PH was a big part of that, and then the
Mm.
extended family over in Cali, which was like Chino XL, and
Yeah.
and
Rest in peace.
Bobby Bowdit, and it was always good vibes. It
Mhm.
was always a family kind of a feeling around them. They were the big homies to me at the time. They gave me opportunities to be around, and I'm always super appreciative of them. But I paid my dues. I put my work in too, and that being said, it's great to just look back and not have any regrets about any of the time spent, and just know that it was all um over the years you lose touch with certain people. Life
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
on for whatever different reason. It just pulls you in different directions, and there's
Right,
never
right.
no bad. It's always a family affair when we see each other. Like, it
Yeah.
don't matter. It's like right away takes you back then to a time, and just boom, you pick up right where you left off. You feel me?
Got you, got you. What about King of the Dot?
King of the Dot is where I battled HFK. He was a super like popular comedy, kind of makes fun of you.
Uh-huh.
Like, he battled Martin Short on HBO one time, which was hilarious. And I went up there. I went up there by myself. I had my man at the time. He was like, "Yo, you could stay." My parents just bought literally the penthouse at the Trump Towers in Toronto. So he's like, "Yo, he bought, yo, but we got no furniture, so you're gonna have to sleep. We got no furniture." Now, literally, no furniture meant not even a sheet, napkin, nothing in this fucking house. Okay.
Okay.
But listen, I'm in the top of the Trump Tower, baby.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
I'm in the
yeah.
top of the Trump Tower. It's my first time in Toronto. I'm by myself. I got my fucking merch, my CDs. I had just put out an album with DJ Brown 13.
Okay,
He DJs now at Shade 45. And
okay.
I was feeling it. I was feeling it. People were like noticing me. They recognized me from battle rap. So it was kind of cool to be like seen. And it was
Yeah.
fashion week, so the blocks were like kind of cut off, and it was like a vibe up there. Like, it was really cool. The people are super, super, super nice. And King of the Dot is ran really on time and very like official.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
there's people there, and they like just performing there. They know that they're incredibly biased towards Americans.
Mm,
They are incredibly biased towards
yeah.
Americans, especially at that time. So I'm
Okay.
there by myself, but Uno Lavos was there. I had a
Mm,
supporter drive all the way up from Chicago to come out there. Like, I thought that
nice,
was, and
nice.
that was like, yo, it was dope. Like, it was dope. And I put on, and I clearly won that battle. And all
Uh-huh.
he did was try to just make fun of me, my legs, the whole entire shit. It was boring. But I
Right.
came at him. I came at him, and then I just came at him left, right, boom, 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 fucked him up in the first, fucked him up in the second, and then just like threw him in a casket in round three. Because I said he mentioned my legs in every round. I haven't mentioned his lisp in three. You know, and so that
Yeah,
was like everybody in the room was like, "Fuck."
yeah, yeah. Dope, dope, dope. So what if you I know all everything as far as all the battle scenes and everything plays a part, right? In some way or some form. Is there one particular one that stands out to you the most as far as that you would say maybe
Like, my
most
favorite.
well, your favorite as well, but like important to when it came to the culture, the pushing, you know, rap battles and the battle scene, like which one of all of them? Because you have like it turned into like the DVD eras, right? And you had the Smack DVD, then you had the URL coming up, and there's a lot of different phases.
You know, it's tough to say, right? Because
Mhm.
it depends on what the answer you want to get out to that question is. Because the way I look at it is, there's always been like kind of these epic rap battles even since the 80s going on,
That's
like
true.
like the Bridge. And
Right, right.
there's always been these like pretty big, important, significant
Uh-huh,
battles.
uh-huh.
And then in the 90s, East Coast versus West Coast, Big and Pac. And then you had, after that, you had Nas and Jay, and everybody was sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for Nas. Like, what the fuck is he gonna say? What the fuck is Nas
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
say? Like, I need to
yeah,
know,
yeah,
right? Like, it was like one of those things. And then when he dropped, it was like, okay, okay, Nas, all right.
yeah.
Like, just respectfully, Nas has always been way more hip hop to me than Hove. Always. That's all. I've always said that. You could go back interviews I've said fucking 15 years ago and hear that shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Me, I'm with you on that, man.
but
But
but but you know that was important. Eminem's battles were important. Ice
Mm,
T and I like Ice Cube and Easy E. Like you can't
Common
just
and yeah,
pinpoint
yeah,
it
yeah.
like to one thing. So what I think is hip hop battles, period, are important to the
Mhm,
culture. They always
mhm,
show that the man on the mic has always something to prove about his life, his penmanship, who he is. Like he's always proven himself. It's always a proving ground. And sometimes that proving ground is you proving it to yourself that you're better.
mhm.
And that's the era I'm in right now. I don't think I got to prove it to nobody. You know, I came out on Battle Axes and said half the battle is knowing that we don't have to battle. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
And so, you know, they all full of shit. This shit is awful. You know, little like I'm in my
Little,
Biggie
little.
couplet. I'm in my Biggie couplet phase
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I'm putting my
yeah,
little sycamore style, more sicker than yours to get you. You know,
yeah.
be more gone to Freeman. You know, like
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
shit. I'm trying to get elite like that. You know,
Right, right.
I realized that you don't got to work really hard. Like when you're a hungry MC, you want them to know that you know every word in the encyclopedia and that you know how to use it and that you're knowledgeable and you, but then as you get older, you realize I ain't got to say none of that dumb shit. I'm just going to tell you exactly what the fuck is on my mind and
What's
how
on
you
your
need to
mind?
hear it.
Straightforward. Right,
And
right, right.
I might teach you a thing or two in this process. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't investing property, it's probably enclosed. The problem is one depreciates, the other escrows. Yo, that's grown man rap. If it ain't adding up, that's because we on two different maths. You can't elevate higher if you stuck in the trap. The truth will set you free. Hold your head. Most people cap. Very few spit rhymes, but everyone raps, and I love it. But ain't fucking with that. You know, that's how I'm talking
Nice,
now.
nice. Straight, straight.
This grown
Yeah, yeah,
days.
yeah, yeah.
This is grown days.
Yeah, yeah,
Raising
yeah,
his
yeah.
beard. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, how do you get your beers to be so perfect and dope, man? I'm trying. Yo,
Thank you. Thank
the
you. I
other
appreciate that.
person that I interviewed, man, that I was like super, super, fan of their beard was Jazz Soon, man. This dude had like I thought his shit was fake, and so I'm
Thank
trying,
you.
man. I'm trying,
Shouts to
but
Roque. Shouts to Roque. Dominican barbershops for life, baby.
no, so speaking of all these battle scenes, man, you went from Brooklyn to Queens, you made your way up to Canada, uh, Washington Square Park, the streets, this and that, the corners,
Cali.
Cali. How do you end up on the show with Jimmy Fallon?
Just being everywhere all the time, being seen. Again, pens attached to that as well. Like, you know, look, I was running in circles. I was
You talking about
doing a
Poison Pen?
poison pen, correct.
Okay, okay.
So, you know, again, that was the like you got to understand we was all like with each other all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ain't had no job. This was my job at that time. You know what I'm
Right, right,
saying?
right.
And just having that flexibility of being a like street entrepreneur. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm,
saying?
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
that was like, you know, so I was around everywhere because once I was on Jimmy Fallon, I got fired from my real job. Like I was working at a gastroenterologist, but
Mm-hmm.
so I got the call real early in the morning for that. They had been doing this skit for a while, and Jay Smooth, you remember Jay Smooth?
Okay.
Smooth out.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so Jay Smooth, shouts to
This,
Jay Smooth. Um, he had been writing, I guess, for the show and some sort of like, you know, behind the scenes role. I'm not fully sure what the role
mm-hmm.
was, but behind the scenes, and Penn was plugged in, and he was plugged in. He used to come to the battles. I think he was there at my first battle versus Paranormal. He's actually right there in the front,
Okay.
and so he's seen that I've been doing it for a while, and everybody in our circle was reliable. That's also the EO Dub network. The EO Dub network, like again, it was like a proving ground. You had to be reliable. You had to be dope. You had to be like you had to show up when you had to
Mm-hmm.
show up, and you had to show out every single time. There
Right,
was
right.
no off days. So again, just being doing the shows I had done, getting recognized. My name was already getting out there. Penn being plugged into that. Jay Smooth being plugged into that. They needed somebody. I got the call, you know, so I was. cherry picked, if you will. There were
Mm-hmm.
two other people. The
Okay.
incident that happened before that, we won't get into that right now, or maybe not at all, period. But it was a crazy incident that happened right before it was about to go out. The dude got disrespectful about my legs. I guess he was feeling pressure, and it almost didn't go down because the guy's name was Majesty, and he was just OD disrespectful, like, because he was feeling some type of way because he knew everybody knew I was gonna win. The second kid was like, "Yo, I know you from Battle Rap. I know you from Grind Town. I'm gonna lose." Like he said that to my face when he met me for the first time. Shouts to Leon Marin.
That's kind of like how some boxers, when they used to get in the ring with Tyson and they would look across and you could just see in their face, they're like, I'm done.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I
Oh,
don't know if you remember, but
yeah, that's a
you
great
could just see in their
analogy.
face, like it's just like their whole, everything would leave their body.
It's great analogy. Yes, exactly that.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, all right, but that's cool. So how was that experience for you though? You know what I mean? Like, being on Jimmy Fallon, did it help you at all as far as even a different, with the exposure, a
Oh
different
my
type of
God.
crowd?
What are you kidding? That was the takeoff for me.
Yeah.
That was takeoff for me. Everything they told me not to do, I did. And so I had a shirt that said at Just Days. I had got it made that day
Mm.
just because I wanted, my Twitter account blew up the next day. I wasn't really an IG person. I was late to the party as far as like understanding the value of what social media did. I just like Twitter because I could talk shit on it, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm good with a quotable here and there. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Right, right, right.
interested to kind of follow. So that being said, shameless promotion. No,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no,
but
but it's smart though.
but um, what was saying? What was talking
No,
about?
as far as the exposure and how it,
Oh, as
it
far as
helped
Jimmy
you out
Fallon
with.
goes, so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so my Twitter account blew up. It was shown 7 different times. Like that one taping was
Hmm.
shown 7 different times, and around the football, around football season, and
Mm.
it was just. It was a blessing, man, because I had that shirt on. They told us we couldn't wear shirts. They told us we couldn't talk to Jimmy Fallon. I broke all the rules, with the risk of them not being able to air it. They kind of, you have to sign like papers behind the scenes, and they put you in a green room, and they sort of make you go through a process. They test to see if you could do it, and that's why the kid was feeling some type of way, because I was zipping through that shit, man. Are you fucking kidding me? You think I'm gonna fumble this? Are you
Right,
fucking
right,
kidding
right,
me?
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I know what the fuck I'm out here to doing, and everybody felt me. Just everybody felt my energy in the crowd. I got a pop if you listen to it, and it just helped blow me up. And then after that, I had released my Walk Twice as Hard album, which was just my autobiography, which
Hmm.
is just me telling people, look, I'm not the same as everybody else. Like I rap, but here's what you don't know about me. I was handicapped, and I am handicapped, and like
Hmm.
sometimes this is what life is like and what it has been like. So Walk Twice as Hard is like my autobiography, and that's why the cover looks like Rocky 2, because like I'm Rocky Balboa, you know, um, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Luther Rigbo. You know what I'm saying? What you want to do?
Nice, nice.
You want to wild out?
So,
You want to dance? Don't matter to me. I got it all locked down, baby.
yeah, that's so cool, man. Um, I want to briefly go back to what we were talking about earlier in the beginning, as far as you coming up, dealing with with the disability with your legs and the stuff that you had to take on, as far as the way people might look at you, talk about you, and sometimes you even said make fun. Uh, Moving forward, there was correct me if I'm wrong, but there was an organization called Forward Rise. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
And you volunteered or you did some work with
yeah,
them.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So how does it feel for you? Because if I'm not mistaken, you did a lot of stuff within the community,
Yes.
with children and stuff like that. How does that feel for you to be able to take a lot of the experiences and things that you might have went through, coming up, growing up, and even as an adult, and be able to share that to hopefully impact somebody's life and help them out in a certain way?
You know, and that ties into a true hip hop feeling. It
Mm.
does. But we won't. We'll do separate. But
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
but the reason I say that is because kids' eyes always tell the truth. They
Mhm,
always
mhm.
tell the truth. And kids are natural like haters. They are natural haters by default because they're scared of what they don't understand.
Of
Fear of what
course.
they can't conquer. Hated just the fear of your man became
Yeah,
so
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and so they their eyes tell you a story, and when you connect with I used to go to school for career days, and I would talk from classroom to classroom to classroom. They
Mhm.
have like a little chaperone that takes you, to give you like a little folder. It's a dope experience. And I didn't even know they had like a voting, but I was voted the favorite. And they had somebody from
Nice.
Bird Gang there too that year, which
Oh,
was
wow.
crazy. But Just Days was voted the favorite. And they
Nice.
kept trying to bring me back a couple of times. I did like anti-bullying campaigns there. I did like motivational speeches there.
Mm,
Um, Giving back to kids that still follow me to present day. It's like a responsibility. Like, don't just go to a school and talk shit because you think it sounds good. If
mhm,
you really ain't about that positive lifestyle and you really ain't about making yourself a living example of the shit that comes out of your mouth, then you're doing a disservice to these people. You're
mhm.
teaching them that it's okay to stunt. You're teaching them that it's okay to lie and manipulate.
Right.
But if you are true at heart, it's a great privilege to be able to speak to somebody else's children and
Mhm,
leave an impression on them that they take with them and maybe gets them through hard times. And you
mhm.
never know how you inspire people. And years later, I hear things that like I'm just blown away by, that's just so like mind blowing, that I'm like, wow, because I'm in my 40s now. I
Okay.
turned 43 in November.
Okay. God
And
bless.
thank you. And just
Mhm.
to be able to appreciate it and look at life from just a whole different perspective of when you were doing those things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's humbling, man. You don't understand the responsibility that goes into a microphone, and you don't understand how heavy the weight of your words are to some people until it's sometimes they hold the mirror up to you as they saw it, you know?
Mhm, mhm. Right, right. Have you come across any, maybe any of the youth so that you might have talked to or, came across like later on? You know what I mean? Like, have you ever crossed paths with them like later, like afterwards, and have a chance to maybe talk to them or see how they're doing, anything like that? Or not really?
Not that I've ran into them, like, in person or anything like that,
Mhm.
no, like, there's never been, like, any ongoing, like, relationship like that. Like, I've mentored
Mhm.
a couple of different people that,
Okay.
like, have even some issues, because I told you, like, my own brother has issues of his own,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm sensitive to that kinda stuff, you know? And I told you I was
Mhm.
raised by my mom, who's a sweet woman, so, like, there is a
This
compassion
mhm.
in me, and there's a certain I get a certain satisfaction out of doing it too. Like, I do it for them, but I do it for me too, because it makes me
Mhm.
feel good, and it lets me know that my pain has more than one purpose. My
Mhm.
pain is used in everything that motivates me to be a better person, do better, and lead by example. What I told you earlier is what's been told to me. That's not me telling you that. It's like
Mhm.
people that have these kids that have still followed me, some of them 12 years later, 15 years,
Right.
because it wasn't like I just did that for like a little spurt. I did it for a while. I've
Mhm.
always been doing it. I've always been giving back to the community, going to the community center, put on little magic tricks, card magic for kids,
Oh,
always
okay.
doing
Yeah,
shit
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that.
Nice, nice.
Just on the low, just shit that makes you feel good. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah.
saying?
Mhm. Nice,
So
nice.
it's rewarding, it's fulfilling, and even though I've never ran into them in person, some of them reach out and say that kind of stuff like, I remember meeting you at my class, you
Mhm.
signed this for me, and you've always just been such a positive influence. Like, yo,
Nice.
that's heavy. That's heavy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
A kid who can watch anything they fucking want, right? Drake, Miley Cyrus, fucking
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Stugotz,
yeah, yeah.
fucking the Riddler.
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck, right?
Right, 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 right.
They're
Yeah.
still watching me and connected to that speech I gave in that classroom. They still
Mhm.
have the thing I signed for them.
Nice,
Isn't that
nice.
crazy?
That's yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, you're absolutely right. I think it's sort of, uh, besides the fact that it makes you feel good inside, it's sort of because I think that we all kinda seek that in one way, right? Like, how can we make a difference? Like, we're here on this earth. like, what can we do in a way that will make a difference? You know what I mean? Somehow, like, we
Mhm.
feel like we're so small when
Mhm.
you know, because it's so big, so many people, this and that. But like, how can my little part, how can it affect or make some kind of a difference? And I think, you know, when we have the opportunity, like things like you're talking about, you know, yeah, you've accomplished other things, right? You've done this, you've battled, you beat this person, have album, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that other side, right? Like there's the other side. And so it's fulfilling. I hear you. Yeah, I'm just going to say real quick, man, the whole time that we've been talking, I could see why, like you just said, yo, isn't it crazy how this person, because, you know, that me, like there's so many other people that they could be looking or following or this, and you're like, me, you are, to me, right? This is my opinion, my look. You're very authentic. You come across as somebody that's straightforward, man, not holding any punches. And it shows, man, because we've kind of talked, we've been going back and forth. We've been talking about music. We talk about, you know, coming up and some of your struggles and pains. And we go back to the music. You change. When we're talking about the music aspect and everything, man, there's a certain something that comes out of you. When we go back to talking about the struggles, this, that, whatever, working with the youth, yo, it comes out, man.
I appreciate that.
It's
I
hard for me to
appreciate that.
explain
Respect.
because I'm like watching you, but the emotions and the way you change, you know, you light up when you're talking about battling. You kind of go back down when we're talking about these other things, but I see the happiness coming out though.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
mm.
And the calmness and the
Well,
fulfillment. And that I think is part of the reason. I think kids, like you said, right? You look in their eyes, they tell the truth, they can't hide. They see it. They can
mhm.
see when somebody's truly authentic and it resonates with them on the inside. And I think that's probably why you're getting that.
Real recognize real. I appreciate everything you just said immensely. Um, Yeah, no, it is that. It is that. And look, it's not something that you have to turn on. It's just something that it's just like you're there and it's just natural to you. Like, you
Mhm.
know, it's look, I have a great appreciation for life itself. You
Right.
understand? And
Mhm.
because of that, even though my life has had the ups and downs it has, I feel it's made me incredibly strong and I feel
Mhm.
resilient and I feel like there's no storm I can't weather or however the fuck that expression goes.
No, you're right. You're right.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I feel good. I feel I hate using the term survived, right? Because it's not
Mhm.
like I'm a
Yeah, yeah,
survivor.
yeah, yeah.
But you survived. You survived,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and here's the thing, not only did you survive, but you thrived. I've made
Mhm.
decisions in my life that very hard. I've made sacrifices. I've worked really hard to change my life. I have a sense of responsibility towards my family. I understand what they need from me.
Mhm.
Told you I have a mentally ill brother. That's not something that's easy for anybody to deal with. He's currently in the hospital in Jamaica Hospital,
Oh, man.
currently at the
Mm.
holiday times. It's
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
also
yeah.
has some legal issues attached to it.
Mhm.
It's tumultuous to say the least, and it's draining emotionally. I don't
Of
have
course.
time to judge anybody, and I don't have time to put out bad energy to anybody because I got to make sure that whatever angels are left on this planet and whatever good graces are out there, they guide my family and help me and just make sure that I'm good. And I believe heavily, heavily, heavily in God. I do heavily.
Mhm.
I'm very spiritual. I don't go to church, not at all. I'm not going to sit
Yeah.
here and lie to you and tell you I do that. But praying is a strong part of one of the building blocks that is my composition. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah. My grandmother, she always used to say, she was like, you don't have to go to a church in order to be connected with God or be able to speak to God when you want to speak to him. She
Mm-hmm.
always would say that. I always used to hear her say that over because she was very, very, you know, she always had her Bible by her. She always believed in
Yep.
God. She always prayed. But she was like, you know, the church thing wasn't for her, man. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's not for
And
everybody.
no, 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 it's not. But again, yeah, no, no, I get you, man. So that's just really, it makes me, remember earlier you said that it seems like I'm kind of selective. of people that I try to have on, which I am to a certain extent, right? I always, I basically try to see, somebody that might be interesting for whatever reason, or somebody that I feel like is dope. But and sometimes I get it wrong.
Nah, that's okay. That's
I get
okay.
it wrong sometimes. I bring them on, or not necessarily even as a guest, but I'm just saying, you make connections, and sometimes, and this is one of the things that I could sort of pick up from you. You know what I mean? Besides the fact
Mm.
that you're dope as an artist, I just kind of saw that other side, and it really intrigued me to get to know a little bit more um, about yourself, and hopefully others that will watch. You know what I mean? Get to learn a little bit more about Just Daze. Uh, Just Daze, do me a favor. We've been talking a lot about a lot of things. Walk Twice is Hard. Is that the first album that you put out?
Mm-mm. Common
That's
Law
not
is
the
the first. Common Law is the first official album I put out.
first official album was Common Laws.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But Walk Twice as Hard is the one that you were saying is sort of more about your story,
Yeah.
right? When you got up to that point of working on that album, how was that for you? Did you find that to be sort of therapeutic for yourself when writing it and putting it together, or afterwards?
Well, I I put a lot of fake pressure on myself that I didn't need to, and I put like
Okay.
timelines and all this type of shit and pressure that I did not need to.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know I handcrafted the whole album myself. I recorded everything myself. I mixed everything myself.
Really?
I had a little help with the mastering, of course, but I
Common
was
Law.
very hands-on with everything. I put the album together, hand selected the beats, had my spin on the artwork. Like my ideas are always like my artwork is always my idea and
Mm-hmm.
usually just brought to life by somebody else. I'm not just like make me a cover. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
I'm very hands-on with everything, very selective, and it was therapeutic. Making the album was,
Just so people could see more or less, right? That's the
yep, Walk Twice as Hard.
yep.
And the guy who let me stay on the floor in the Trump Towers produced the second song on
Oh,
that
nice,
album.
nice,
All right.
nice,
So
nice.
so it was good for me. It was good for my healing. The most one of the takeaways from that album that was crazy is that like months later somebody had hit me up on Facebook at the time. I was like, "Hey, you don't know me. I'm a fan. Me and my wife listen to you. She had a miscarriage, and we just play your album, and it gets us through it." And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Did you just get chills? Did you just get chills
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
this?
That
Yeah,
actually just hit me in my gut,
you
man.
know
I'm
what I'm
like,
saying?
damn.
So imagine that. Imagine that somebody hits you with that, right? So for me, when I say that, like my music isn't just me healing
Mhm.
like myself, it's other people take things out of it too. And I'm so grateful and humble. And that's why I feel like I have the responsibility that I do
Right,
because
right.
not everybody's listening to me, and I'm more than okay with that.
Mhm.
I appreciate who does, and I appreciate what they take from me, whether it be getting ignorant and hype at the gym, whether it be just sitting back in your room with a L, smoking, drinking, just thinking about life and reflecting, and whether it gets you through something like that, whether it gives you
Mhm.
self-esteem, whether I don't just write music for myself, and that's even though I do write music for myself, that's one of the takeaways that other people have told me, which is crazy to me. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Nice, nice. That's really cool. But now it took you a little while to work on that album, meaning as far as an album that talks about your struggles and everything. What made you feel like that was the right time? Was it something that you were going through, or anything in particular that you decided that was the time?
You know, again, just going back to like the Poison Pen PH era, like during that
Mhm.
phase, like we was always together, and Penn was really like a proponent and saying, Days, you should really tell your story. Like you are like a
Mm.
unique motherfucker. You are like I give it
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you. You
yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
And so you know, and he was like, really, motherfuckers want to hear it. And so I pulsed the audience at the time. I was like, and I had the opportunity to be on stage with Penn at tech shows, being
Mm.
seen, showcasing my shit. So it was like I was catching little flies from his following too. And again,
Nice.
it was just I was super appreciative of it all, with everything that came out of it. You know what I'm saying? And I was asking people like, "Do you want to know about?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." So it's kind of like I felt even a sense of responsibility that I had to get it done. So that goes back to me now saying, remember, I gave myself fake deadlines and like
Yeah,
pressure
yeah, yeah.
unnecessary. So now you understand a little bit more
Right.
because more and more people are like, "Oh, absolutely, I love watching you battle. I love this." And I had a pretty decent following from my first album because the guy who produced my first album is basically in the same, like, I wouldn't say category as Kenny Dope with like Rashid
Ooh, Kenny
Chappelle,
Dope. Oh yeah.
but my boy
Yeah,
Jerry
yeah, yeah.
Santiago, FTL, For the Love
Okay.
Productions, who's, he's put out so many house records, did my first album. So my first album has that real classic hip hop feel to it. It has that real, and the reason it's common law is because, I ain't got a ring on it, but me and hip hop been unofficially married
Yeah.
since a
Right, right,
youth,
right.
So it's like that's what's
Nice.
common law. And then, after that, I put out EPs. I put out a mixtape after I won the
Hmm.
Jimmy Fallon shit. I put the King of Queens mixtape out. I got songs with Nems. I got songs with Chris Rivers. Like, it was just all over the place. Dope at that time. J57. I
Nice.
was putting out records with MVP. I don't know if you watch wrestling,
Okay,
MVP
okay.
at the
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was just a lot of like
MVP.
frequency going on, right? There was a lot of
Good.
frequency. And honestly, like I had gotten to a level where we were about to take off. Like things were about
Hmm.
to really, really, really take off. And then like certain things just transpired and things unraveled. And then, PH obviously passing and just J Arch also, and just all these like just these monumentally devastating things that kind of for a little while made the foundation just seem like rocky, just a
Mm.
little rocky.
Okay.
But then eventually everybody was able to overcome the hurdles, get even stronger and rebuild and regroup. And then, just as I said, like life just has a way of just taking you in different directions.
Hmm.
But it was all of that. It was all of that embodied in everything that was going on. So
Hmm.
it's kind of a lot of things to take into consideration when you look at the whole big picture collectively. You feel
Right,
me?
right, right. When you say, because a few times you mentioned like we, and us and stuff like that, and it sounds like you're talking more of a specific group of
Yeah.
individuals. Could you mention like who these individuals are, if
Grind
possible?
Time, yeah, 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 of course. Grind Time East Coast, right? So
Hmm.
G Tech, like it was our G Tech family, Team Hami,
Hmm.
which included a lot of people. It's like too many to list, but like there was
Okay.
a whole group of us. It was a production of people. You got to remember,
Hmm.
we were
Hmm.
putting on big battle rap events at the time. We had street teams, we had promotion, we was doing radio shows.
Hmm.
We had all of us like doing different things. Like everybody, there was quite a few people that had the Jimmy Fallon opportunity that I had. I
Hmm.
just happened to take off with it.
Take
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right, right,
It
right.
was just
Seize the
different.
moment. Hmm.
Correct, correct. And so, but also I was carrying myself a little bit differently because I had that learning experience, learning from A Train Productions and learning from that learning curve, that little Sony deal, that I knew how to carry myself differently, but I also didn't understand what power I possessed at the time. I didn't understand how to do certain things. And so that's where like I could have used a lot more mentorship and like a lot
Hmm.
more just things that, but listen, I was just happy to be doing it, to be honest with you. I told you I was broke. Like I'm not going to sit here in front like I had paper or anything like that. And I was just happy to be doing it. I was just really, really happy to be doing it and a part of it and with the people I was at and just getting recognized and not having to pay
Hmm.
for door at SOBs and like just all this type of like dope
Yeah,
shit that
yeah,
just
yeah,
comes with
yeah.
like hip
Yeah,
hop
yeah.
shit,
Right, right, right,
and then I
right.
get with my chick and I'm getting recognized in public. I go to Australia, I got recognized in
Nice.
Australia. Like, come on,
Nice,
B.
nice,
Like I'm
nice.
like, come on, that's
Yeah,
dope
yeah, yeah, yeah.
shit. That's
Yeah,
dope
hell
shit.
yeah, hell yeah. I have to ask you this, man. You're Queens representative. When it comes to MCs, uh, solo groups, duos, whatever have you, Queens or Brooklyn? Who has the? I know. I know you're
Just
gonna
like the
probably.
drink
I mean,
champs, like to take a shot or just no.
oh yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I always. Brooklyn. Brooklyn has a lot, man. Brooklyn has
I'm
a
not gonna
lot.
lie, Brooklyn's
And
dope.
Queens is like
My
ridiculous
favorite rapper
too,
of all
man.
time is from Brooklyn, Biggie. He's my
That's your
favorite
favorite.
rapper
That's your favorite.
of
Yeah,
all time. There's
really.
nothing. Look, excuse me.
Yeah, I saw
Excuse
it.
me.
I saw it. I saw it.
Excuse me. Excuse me. We got we got them. We got them right here. We got
Which one is?
everything.
I got the.
I got all of them right there. I got all the album covers right there. My
You got the
inspiration
other
right.
one. I got the.
Born
What
Again
was
and
it?
Life After Death.
Yeah, I got the Life
I
After
got
Death
two
one right
Biggie
here.
right there. I got him in the Juicy jersey, and then I got him with the King's Crown right over
Really?
there. Listen.
Okay. What?
So
Why? What in particular about Biggie Smalls is it that makes him your all-time favorite?
I mean, I think he helped me get through some of the pain I was going through as a child, as stupid as that might sound to people, you know.
No, not at all.
But he did like songs like Suicidal Thoughts. Like my favorite hip hop song of all time, no debating, is Gimme the Loot. Hands down, my favorite hip hop song of all time. Appropriate for any time, in my eyes.
Yeah.
Just how belligerent it is, just how I mean, I would spit that song until I would pass out type of shit because I was
Mm,
screaming at the top of my lungs, right? There was something about Biggie that I don't know. It was just an instant connection to his music.
mm,
So
mm.
for me, I loved, and I thought he was clever with it. I thought he was like, he was
Yeah.
saying some slick, smart shit without using smart words, right? He didn't have to hit you with the vocab. He was just on some smooth shit,
Right. Right. And the
and
way
he
he would
had
make it, the flow,
bop, the bop too.
the bop, everything
Exactly.
was.
I
Yeah.
take a
No. No.
lot
No.
of that. I
Yeah.
take a lot of that. I've had people like over in Norway grab my shit and like they'll grab pause. Hey, yo. No, listen, hold on.
Yeah.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I get it. Yeah, you should say that for those that might be watching that are into that. Yo, that whole pause thing to me is like weird. I'm not gonna lie.
It's just funny at this point.
It's
It's
funny.
just funny.
No. It's funny. It's funny. It's just I don't think about it until the person says pause, and I'm like, oh God, okay. I guess I had to think about that like that.
Trust me, listen, man. It's
But it
just
did sound a little fun.
no, yeah, no. What I mean is they'll grab
Yeah.
one of my vocals, right, off of like a YouTube
Yeah.
video or something, and then they'll put it
Mhm.
through like a filter, and then they'll send it back with me. Everybody says that I have like a rhythm in my flow, and like a kind of like
Yeah.
that Biggie like singing almost when I rap. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not
Right.
singing. It's just that
It's just the
I'm doing
way
like
you.
a rhythm, right? I'm just got like a
Oh.
wave that I so and I take it as a big compliment. And what people send me back is super dope. Like I've had people remix my whole albums multiple times. Asking for acapellas and stuff like that. And like again, I was just like, oh, not everybody doesn't do this. Like, like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's dope. It's humbling every time I do it. Like the Raps and Rants, the second album, the remix album might be better than the first album, like with the
Mm-hmm.
beat
Yeah.
selections and stuff like that. Honestly,
We
it's a
used
good
to see
shouts to
that happen.
JMP.
We used to see that happen a lot back in the days, right? Where they would come out with a song and then like you would hear the remix, and it was like the remix was a lot better than the original sometimes.
Exactly.
That used to happen a lot. Yeah. You mentioned working with Chris Rivers.
Yeah.
How was that?
Dope. Chris Rivers, the way that went down was I performed at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival. I want like, and I had this moment where I had to max. So it was like a wheel, it was called the rhyme calisthenic.
Okay.
And basically you spin the wheel, it gives you a category and you gotta freestyle about it. And so one of the topics is macking. So a shorty, you gotta pick a shorty out the crowd. You gotta ask 3 of her likes, 3 of her dislikes, and you gotta try to mac her number. Right? That's
Oh
how it
wow.
goes. That's how it goes.
Okay.
And so I knocked it out the park. Knocked it out the park, right? And so I'm off the stage, whatever. Chris Rivers comes up to me, he's like, yo, man, he's like, I fuck with you. I love your battles and everything like that. We should do something. And I'm like, a joint? Now in the inside, I'm doing backflips, you know what I'm saying? Because like pun is in
Yeah.
my top 2.
Mm-hmm.
Pun is also in my top list. And so I'm like, absolutely, let's do something. And so I had reached out. His manager just set it up, and just that joint was done just strictly out of like just Chris being a real one, wanting to do a joint with me.
Nice, nice. Have you worked with him again afterwards
Mm-mm.
or no? Okay.
No, we haven't worked together after that, but listen, Chris is a real one.
Mhm.
And like I said, it was humbling at the time, just seeing that, like, the eyes that are on you, that people are
Mhm.
watching. Even some of the time at the time, like, my numbers weren't doing crazy numbers. Like, some of my battles weren't doing like crazy numbers, but the people that were watching were definitely eyes that mattered. A
That
lot of
man, yeah,
people,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's what's important.
yeah, for hell
Yeah,
yeah, that's what's important. That's what landed me writing gigs. That's what landed me different opportunities. It shows that, like, you come from that cloth.
right. So, uh, Days, you have a lot of stuff that you have, between mixtapes, albums you've been putting out. There's a lot of music out there. So I do highly suggest everybody checking this out to go, whatever your favorite platform is to stream music, if you want to go copy it or whatever. But there's music for days out there. So yeah, Days, what do you have coming up, in the near future, or as far as music goes, or any projects that you might want to let everybody know about?
So I have a lot of unreleased projects that are, like, sort of still being pieced together. The older I get, the more meticulous I am with my process and putting just an album together. I can't just have like any order, and it can't have
Mhm.
a different, like, I'm very conscious of what, like, goes into a replay album now. You know what I mean? So I just got to organize everything correctly, get the final mixes on it. But I have a lot of stuff. I'm working on projects with Level 13, Sixth Floor, More Brutal Caesar, and Just Daze. Just a lot. Like, it's hard to. I
Mhm.
have shit with Lee Gomez, aka Wipe the Needle from the UK.
Okay.
Um, and I know I'm just forgetting.
A
You know
lot
what
of
I'm saying?
a lot
But
of stuff.
that's
What a lot of
but
stuff
there's
is coming up.
but there's a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff is very personal.
Mhm.
Some of the stuff is extremely personal, like talking about shit like my brother, and just talking about, like,
Okay.
family relationships and things of that sort. So some of it's introspective. I haven't really decided if I want to release it, if it's shit that even people want to hear at this point. But I also
Mm.
feel like, who am I to judge that? Let them judge that. Some people might take something out of it, like, years later, and come back to you and be like, yo, this song was like it for me. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, right, right.
People
Mhm.
say that about Andy Dufresne. That's one of those joints that people listen to of mine, and they say that that's like one of them
That's
one of
one
them
of theirs.
joints. Yeah, that's one of them
Mm.
joints.
Right.
And one of the stories that I told, Superman's Dead, has lived up to the testament of time. Like, if you go back and revisit that track, especially like if you're a comic fan or something, like, it has nothing to do with like Superman himself.
Right, right,
It's
right,
like,
right.
but it's a dope story, even to the point where might even consider doing like a video or a visual for it in present day. That's
Nice.
like the kind of, so, like, I have that kind of stuff. I have a bunch of projects coming up. I have been thinking about making Raps and Rants a little bit more official. And
Okay.
like, Raps and Rants is the series I do in my car that started years and
Yeah,
years
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is dope.
Shouts to the homie MVP, because he was the one who was like, yo, Days, listen, I don't give a fuck. You on to something with this shit. Keep doing it. You cutting
Yeah.
promos. You doing your thing. And I was like, really? You think so? He's like, yo, the way you fucking, sometimes you rap, and then sometimes you rant, and then you drop fucking wisdom. Just put it together. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
never really given it like the proper structure. It's just kind of like one of those things I do that people know I do. But I see it
But
like, it catches. It
but
catches.
that's what works though, right? So
Hmm.
that you have to, I always say that there's like a fine line, or it's hard to try to figure out, because it works because of how you doing it, right? It's like organic, you do it and it works. Sometimes you can make it too polished and everything, and then it kind of
Exactly. And then
loses
it
the
loses
effect,
yup, exactly.
right?
And that's
So,
and
but
that's
it's not a
exact
bad idea. It's not, if you could figure out how to,
Right, right,
yeah,
right. Just
yeah, yeah,
giving it
yeah.
like a little bit more discipline, I think. It's like,
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a little structure, a little bit
it's
of
one of those
structure.
things that I do when I feel. It's not one of those things I feel I need to do. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
but
I wanted to ask you about that too, but yeah, yeah.
but I'll tell you this. it's incredible the response you get to that, because it's, remember what I told you, it's like back in the day I walk into the room, they understand my voice, and they
Yeah.
caught my and then they want to listen to me, right? Then they're like,
Mhm.
oh, he raps too. So I think it's kind of like funneling that kind of wave
Mhm.
into the modern era with using the social media platform to do that. And
Mhm.
I'm appreciative of it. I'm happy for everybody that fucking subscribes, and I'm happy for everybody that listens and follows and shares raps and rants. I think it's a lot of people told me you should be pushing Days Wisdoms, and there a lot of people have different opinions on what I should call it, but it's just
Yeah.
raps and rants, man. That's just who I am. You know what I'm saying?
That's dope. I mean, you can. There's a lot you could do with it, though. There's a lot you could do with that. You know what I mean? But I listen, me personally, and I think it goes back. It's so weird, right? Because coming up, like I was saying earlier, we didn't really have a lot of outlets. Like in other words, we would hear artists, and maybe if we had their album, if we were lucky enough to be able to afford to buy an album, you get to see like
Mm-hmm.
what they look like, or glimpses here and there. It wasn't until like videos came, stuff. But I think a lot of us used to always want to get to know more, right? It's like, and I think that's also what made us pay so close attention to the lyrics and the music, because we felt like the more we hear it, we could envision what this person or people were like and how they were. And now you have this time and age where, you have
It ruins it.
every,
That ruins it.
it does, but at the same time, right? You have a generation that's what they know. It's like,
Right.
oh, I have an artist that I like, but I have to also see what they're cooking, what they're doing, and what they're doing today, and everything is there for them where we didn't have that. But then you also have us who now we do have a chance, right? Because who would have thought that you would get to see somebody like Big Daddy Kane on Instagram talking randomly or this and that, or sometimes you could say something and maybe he might respond back to you. You're like, oh, what? You know what I mean? Like, we used
Like
to
that.
hope to go to like an in-store and see like your artist, and so
There
it's
was an
kind of like,
allure. There was a mystery
mhm,
about it. You couldn't
it
get to them,
was.
and that was part of the
You couldn't.
mystique behind the
Yeah,
artist's aura. Now
right.
they're almost too. Now I could pay $30 and get a birthday shout out on Cameo. Like I don't,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
if I necessarily like that. No, but
Right, right, right.
it's like,
No, no, it depends. But what I was meant by all of that is like what you're doing with the raps and rants. Like again, it kind of also helps connect people a little bit more to you that
yeah,
follow
I
you, or
agree. I agree.
some might not even. You might even get some people that love your raps and rants and don't necessarily even listen to
They
your
don't.
music.
That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly it. And listen, I'm okay with that, but
It's fine, yeah.
it's fine, but here's the thing. I'm the same person on the record, right? I'm the same person on the record.
Yeah.
So like it's there's a certain aspect of that I think that people appreciate, right? Is like they see who I am. Everybody sees who I am. Like
Mhm.
you said, I just wear my like authentic cloth. Like
You're
I'm
authentic. Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
trying to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not here to
That's why it
impress
works,
anybody.
man.
And
That's why it
I'm
works.
here to kind of see if I can help people because pain can be purpose. And it's very powerful that people learn how to use pain as something that like inside of them generates this work ethic and this strength and this discipline to overcome whatever it is, because you can. You're just scared.
Mhm.
Everybody is scared to look in the mirror. Everybody is scared to own their fuck ups. Everybody
Mhm.
is scared to admit that they're human and feel that sense of pride and failure and guilt and maybe self-esteem, and they don't feel like they're good enough. But once you look that motherfucker in the face and you're like, you know what, all I needed was a fucking shape up, I'm ready to walk
Yeah,
out
yeah,
into the
yeah,
world,
yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
and that's maybe what my words can do for somebody. And if I can
Mm.
do that, then I feel privileged.
Nice, nice, nice. I agree. Man, Days, we could talk here for a long, long time, man. I think we covered pretty much everything. I wanted to be able to grasp, who Days is as a person. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's music out there. There's a lot, follow Just Days on Instagram. Look them up on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to. There's a lot of music that you're going to go out there and enjoy. I'm just one of those that, sometimes I feel that if you get to know the person a little bit, it kind of helps connect and make sense of what you're listening to, right? Or sometimes you might not, like we were just saying, you might not know the music, but you get to see, maybe you hear something that you say today or you connect with them, and then makes you go and then let me go find out about him.
Hmm.
With the music and other stuff that you've done. So I thank you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to join me on Nsway 73 TV, as I'm messing up my own name. Um, but no, I appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing. The TV, I always tell everybody, stands for talent and vision.
Mm.
We spoke a lot about the talent coming up, developing where you are today with it, and your vision. You seemed like in some way you had a clear vision even as a young kid. You developed it some way, somehow, and you're here now with everything you've been doing, and hopefully a lot more to come. So keep it up, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the platform and asking the questions that you did. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think people need to understand the person in order to understand what they're saying, and then you can appreciate it at a different value. So I absolutely appreciate you taking the time out to,
Oh,
again,
of
ask the
course.
questions and present the things you did in the manner you did. And for those listening, it's at Just Daze on
Hmm.
every single media platform at JUSDAZE. Even as far as my name goes, that's authentic. That's down to my real name is within that. I'll put it to you like that. Days was
Okay.
always my stage name, and that's my real name if you take the letters and put it together.
Okay. So it's not just A's, like you didn't get B's and
Uh,
C's. It's
throwback.
yeah. I like
Salo,
Jimmy Fallon
Salo.
is crazy, man. Yeah. No, yeah, just everybody make sure you go follow Just Days on Instagram and everywhere else. And Just Days, once again, man, I thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to chop it up with me. Hopefully we get to do this again in the near future once you have some other stuff coming out. And yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing, man, and don't stop. Keep that hunger always alive in you, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. This has been an enjoyable experience for me too. And definitely this is the first one. We'll do a part
Yeah,
two.
yeah, yeah. For sure, for sure. Thank you. Once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Nsway 73 TV is me, Uncle E. That was Just Days. Make sure you hit the subscribe so you don't miss this dope interview and conversation. And hit the like button. And like I said earlier, leave a comment, good or bad. We appreciate you taking the time to do so because that means you actually paid attention somewhat, even if it was a bad comment. We'll take it. Until the next one, peace.